Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to make a clay monster out of a pinch pot. So just follow along step by step. I'm going to give you a piece of clay that comes straight from the bag from the factory. So this clay has been wedged, it's been air free, and so all we really need to do for step one is to roll it into a ball. Here we go. The easiest way to roll it into a ball is to first kind of get rid of the corners. Then I'm going to recommend that you roll it on the table. Now we're not just rolling it on the table, we're rolling circles into circles, okay? So small circles which make a bigger circle. And then along the way, if you're seeing little cracks like this and wrinkles, what you want to do is get rid of those because those will become big cracks later. Kind of shape it with your hand. And just keep in mind that the more you touch the clay with your hand, the drier the clay gets, and also the drier your hands get. What I'm going to be making today, I drew a sketch. You should always have a sketch before you get started. This is what I'm going to be making today. So it's a pinch pot monster. You can see that when I make my pinch pot, then I'm going to turn it upside down so that I'm going to turn it right side up so that the hole is here. Because I'm going to put a little succulent right there at the top. Okay? Since my pinch pot design is pretty tall and skinny, I need to watch the way I use my hands. So I definitely don't want to be angling my hands out like this when I'm pinching. I'm going to be using them like this with my hands and fingers straight up and down. So the way that you hold your hands definitely affects the way that it turns out. So what I'm going to do first is put my thumb in the clay. And I'm going to go all the way down with my thumb until I get about a ½ inch from the bottom. You can measure or you can just kind of guesstimate. Now that my thumb is pretty close to the bottom without poking through, I'm going to put my hands and fingers toward the bottom. So my thumb is right there on the other side, and I'm just pinching the clay between my fingers and my thumb. And I can use all 4 fingers because that works a little bit faster. But what you don't want to do is really, really pinch it hard. So pretend like this is a baby bird and you're just gently squeezing it just to kind of carry it from place to place. You definitely don't want to crack its egg or make it hurt. Okay, don't bruise it if this were an apple. Just go very slowly. And the first part I'm pinching is the bottom. That's the hardest part to get thin. The next part I need to pinch, once I know this is getting pretty close to a ½ inch, is the middle part. So I'm just going to move my fingers and my thumb up a little bit, and I'm going to start pinching in this area. Okay? And you can just pinch and turn and pinch and turn. I'm trying to keep my hands up like this instead of pinching out like this, because this hole will get wider if you pinch out like that.
Slowly pinching and turning. Okay. It's getting a little bit wider. You can see it's getting a little bit bigger on the inside, and it's also getting bigger. Keep going. This is not a fast process. Okay? If you try to go too fast, you'll end up with cracks here and cracks here. The minute you see a crack
up there, this is starting to form, I'm just going to erase it with my thumb because those cracks will get bigger. So the minute you see one forming, erase it with your finger because it will get bigger. Now, worst case scenario, if you're making this pinch pot and it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, or things start cracking and completely falling apart, what you don't want to do is just wad this up into a ball and start pinching it again, because that's not going to work. So if that happens, where things go completely wrong, remember, it's just clay, and you're not hurting anything. That's how we learn. And just come up to me, trade in this clay, and get a new piece of clay. No big deal.
Sometimes the first try is the place where we learn the most. And then we're like, okay, maybe I was just pinching too hard. Let's try again. I'm getting there. It's not quite as thin as I want it to be, but I'm getting there. So now I keep going back to the places where I can feel that it's a little thicker, and I'm going to pinch and turn a little bit there. And it's going pretty good. Alright, in your box, there's a kidney. This is the kidney. It's made out of rubber. And it's really hard for me to reach my fingers down there to push that out. So
That's where a tool comes in handy. So I'm going to use this, and this not only smooths it, but it kind of spreads it that way because I'm trying to get it to push a little bit further and stretch the clay out a little bit that way. So make sure when you're doing this, you're still turning, but the clay is still very wet, it's still very stretchable, very plastic very manipulative. If it's uneven at the bottom, just take it on the table and just go like this. A little tap. Okay? Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to smooth it out on the outside also. I'm going to do a lot more smoothing later too, but it's good to do a little bit of smoothing now and a little bit of smoothing later. Okay, now, according to my design, I needed to have a flat bottom and then come up kind of pretty small at the top. So, step one, let's flatten the bottom. This is an easy way to flatten that. Okay. Now, step two.
You know what I can do with this? So I want to make it a little bit smaller, and you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to cut a dart out of here. And I'm going to cut a dart out of here. Darts are a sewing term, where you can just kind of get rid of some stuff and make it smaller. So let's see if that works. This is slip. This is my Sarah King, which I used to score, so I'm going to score this. Score this, go both ways, make it really rough. Scratch it up. You can slip this in there and use that. You just want to dab some slip on there. Dab, dab, dab. Dab, 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 dab. Okay. You don't want to smear the slip on there because then it kind of erases the slip marks. And now I'm going to put this together. Okay, when you score and slip, the last step is to smooth. So if you're doing it right, all this extra slip should squish out and then just smooth it away. So I'm going to blend that in. So this is also called marrying, smooth, slip, and marry. Marrying is a way to join two pieces of clay together, but I just don't think it's as reliable as scoring and slipping. Get that blended in. So either use your hands or use a tool. Alright, this is pretty rough, but let's move on to the next step. Okay, if you want to get this
Looking pretty good. My advice is to kind of roll it on the table. So if you want it to look like a cylinder and it's not really looking like a cylinder, just kind of roll it into one. Okay? Because before I add any details, I really want this to be smooth. Alright, my eyes are going to be here, so I'm just going to put little indents. And then I'm going to create eyeballs. Okay, so eyeballs, I'm going to use a little bit of my extra clay. Divide that equally into two. Roll it into my hand. Okay, so there's a good sphere. One more good sphere. Alright, and I don't want my eyeballs to be so projecting, like that looks a little bit too buggy-eyed. So I'm going to flatten them a little bit. Alright, that's better. And remember, nothing sticks unless you score and slip it. It's hard to get in there though. Score and slip. Score and slip. A little bit of slip on there. A little bit of slip on there. You can't have really too much slip. Lots of slip is good. Okay, and I don't want to create a hole in there, so you don't want to trap air behind there. Just take your paintbrush and get rid of all that extra slip. Okay. All right, let's get some eyelids. All right, let's divide
this in half. A lot of good things start with a sphere. I'm going to smash this sphere. One more. Smash it. Okay. Now I want it to look like a nice eyelid. I think when things look abnormal if you don't put an eyelid on there, so I would highly recommend putting an eyelid. How's that look? Okay. So if you want to add that on, again, just score and split. stuff will come off. It will fall off. Alright, now I think you could marry also, score and slip and marry. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and just kind of blend these eyelids into the body so they don't look so glued on. Okay. Now let's make some horns. One horn, two horn. Okay, some of you might be tempted to take a whole bunch of clay and be like, okay, I'm going to make some really epic horns. This is a coil, right? Now, if I tilt my hand one way, I can make it really pointy on one end.
Is that a cool horn? Yes, especially if I do this to it. You can do that while it's still wet. Would that be awesome? Yeah, but is that likely to break off when it's dry? Yes. That is just too long and skinny and too out there to be safe. So, if you don't want things to break, I'm going to recommend that you make them a little bit shorter and fatter, okay? So, I'm going to make a horn now that's a little bit shorter, a little bit more sturdy, less likely to break.
Slow coil. Holding my hand at an angle to get it to that nice point. And if one is longer than the other, which is, I can always just cut it shorter. Cut that little bit off. Okay. Alright, and then let's decide where we want these. Let's see. Alright, oops. I kind of put them over to the side a little bit. So one right here, score and slip. Dab a lot of slip on. Really press it down. Score and slip. And then the last thing is to smooth it off. If you want to do a little bit of water on this brush, it's not a bad idea. Alright, what else do I have?
I'm just going to use kind of a fatter coil for the legs. Make it flat here. Make it flat here. Coil. Flat. All right. Now, let's give them like some feet. What about that? Does that look good? 1, 2, 3. Kind of looks like elephant feet. Now, if I put this on here right now, this is probably going to crush my legs because this is a little bit too much weight. Also, remember I said your stuff can't be thicker than 1/2 inch, and that looks thicker. So what I'm going to do is just drill a hole, thin it out. So I'm just using this like a drill. There we go. And that way it'll dry a little bit faster. You don't want to just leave a hole here and not there and then score and slip it and trap air. So make sure the hole goes all the way through so that the air can get out. Never leave trapped air in your clay projects because it will expand when it gets hot in the kiln and it will explode. All right, I do want to have a tail. I kind of want to have a tail. This is, I mean, I could use this as a tail if I scored and slip it right here, and then if I attach that to that, that would be way less fragile if it were all sticking to that. I kind of just want a This is the crystal that he's holding in his hand. Now I can cut pretty well with this kidney. This edge is pretty sharp.
This edge is not sharp, but this edge is pretty sharp. So, let's try this. Cut and roll. Make sure I haven't completely gotten rid of my pull here. And this may need to be a little drier, actually. But we'll see. Yeah, it's a little too wet. But I'm trying to just cut these angles. You definitely have to do some shaving when it's a little drier. And then for the side, alright, doesn't matter if it's so good, but what I can do is just gonna shave it.
Like this. And I think I'm just going to
Keep doing that. That's right. So why don't you get creative and use some of the tools that you have? Okay. I'm just going to stick this on here. Off the slip, off the slip. Oh, this lip is kind of squishing out. That's good. Other arm. Just hold this. There we go. They do want to have a little mouth.
You may just kind of put that like right there. Okay, by the way, kids, don't use this for like drawing. It makes horrible, ugly lines. It's bad. Don't do that. Okay, I have a lot of cleaning up to do. Let's go ahead and put the legs on. Just have to make sure you put the legs on so they're going to stand up straight. Okay, now's the test where I need to balance it, see if it falls forward. It's not bad, not bad. But then once I add this on there, will that imbalance it? I don't know, we'll see. So this is going to go in his hand, right? Maybe like that. Okay, he loves his little crystal, but that needs a little more, yeah, that's definitely going to tip it over. So do I need to move my feet forward? Smooth it out. All this stuff up here with the arm definitely needs to be smoothed out. Around the eyes. Back here, it's looking a little rough. Back behind this arm. My arm fell off. I'm going to use too much slip. Too much water. All right, and I do want to marry this hand into there so it just all kind of blends in. Do just a little more smoothing, and then I need to let it rest for a little bit because it just built too quickly and it's still just really wet and it's heavy. It feels like it wants to tip over. Okay, so while this is drying a little bit, I'm going to let it dry this. Maybe we'll dry like that. It's not standing up so well without this crystal, because that weighs a lot. Okay, I'm going to work a little bit more on this crystal, make sure there's no clay dust on the ground, no clay chunks on my hand. And like I said, this really needs to be a little bit drier before it's going to start holding its own shape. It's not bad, it's getting there. Okay, let's shape this a little bit. That needs to be nice and pointy. Okay, this is a great tool.
For to smooth out some of those straight lines. Now that I spend most of my time smoothing out and perfecting after the building process, it's really where it's at. I can't really work on it though if I put it in his hand right now, so I'm not doing that till the very end. I'm just get a bunch of extra bump there. Alright, how's that looking? He holds this in his hand and like moves and moves. They don't look okay. Alright. Cut it a little bit, and then I'll just put it in there. I'm cutting with this road a little bit, otherwise it's just going to flatten it when it cuts. I don't think I meant to cut off that much. But alright, I'm just going to put it in there. Let's do this. Just want to trap that air in there. So, leave a little. Okay. 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 Add. I really want to add some fur texture, which you can do if you have some really thick slip, or even thin slip. I'm just going to do that. It's working a little bit. There we go. I'm getting kind of a bushy tail there. Alright, I have a lot of smoothing left to do. But I need to let it dry out a little bit. It is just
really wet. So, there he is. Not done yet, but started. Everything's on there. It just needs to be smoothed. In order to make this jewel that I have, which is just kind of an extra step, I'm going to cut some clay first. Kind of make that first. So I will have some extra clay that I'm going to be making this out of later. Okay. And I'm going to roll that into a fairly large coil.
So you don't have to have accessories for your monster. I just thought it would be cute to hold it out.
Now this is too thick for my clay. So I'm just going to hollow it out on the inside. There we go. Now I need that to dry for a little bit. So let's work on our pinch pot.